All right, let's jump right in. You know, every weekday morning, millions of kids have this shared ritual, that journey to school on the iconic yellow bus. It's a rite of passage, right? A huge part of growing up. But have you ever actually stopped to think about the invisible world they're traveling through?
So that brings us to the big question here, and it's a simple one, but it's also pretty profound. What are our kids really breathing on that trip? For almost all of them, the answer is, we have no idea. And that's a massive blind spot when it comes to protecting their health. So let's dig into why this hidden journey is so much more critical than you might think. Because it turns out, when we talk about air pollution, we're not all affected equally.
The science here is actually pretty clear. Kids are just uniquely vulnerable to air pollution for a few key reasons. First, their lungs are still developing, which makes them more susceptible and means they absorb pollutants at a higher rate. Second, they just breathe faster than adults do, so they're taking in more air and, more of whatever is in that air. And lastly, it's a simple matter of physics. Their height puts them right at tailpipe level, smack in the line of fire for vehicle exhaust.
Okay, so if we know this is such a serious risk, it kind of begs the question, right? Why don't we have the data we need? And that brings us to the core of the problem, the monitoring blind spot.
So why is there this huge gap in what we know? I mean, in an age of big data and constant information, how do we not know what millions of kids are breathing every single day?
Well, the answer is that our current monitoring system was just never built for this kind of job. The fixed, static air quality stations we use, sure, they can tell you what the air is like at one specific street corner. But they're completely blind to what a child is actually experiencing as they move along a bus route through all these different neighborhoods.
And honestly, it's even more complicated than that. A kid's journey is always changing. You've got detours for construction, crazy traffic jams, even just a change in the weather. All these things are constantly shifting the environmental conditions along the way. A static monitor just can't keep up with that reality.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. It turns out the answer to this super complex problem, well, it's been right in front of our faces the whole time, pretty much hiding in plain sight.
The solution wasn't about building some brand new, crazy expensive network from scratch. No, it was about using a network that's already out there, one that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. And here it is, the yellow school bus. Think about it. It's already the biggest mass transit system in the whole country, and probably the most trusted one. These buses are already driving through every single neighborhood, every single school day. So what if they could do more than just get kids from A to B? What if they could actually protect them?
And this little device is the key. It's called the Sparrow Note. It's a small, patent-pending sensor you can mount right on a bus. It's such a simple, elegant idea that basically turns any bus into a mobile, real-time monitoring station. No complicated infrastructure needed. You just mount it and go.
What this gives you is something called hyper-local accuracy. We're not talking about those vague, citywide averages anymore. This is street-level data. It captures the real environmental conditions a child is actually breathing on their specific route. It's incredibly precise.
Okay, so let's see how all this data gets turned into something powerful. Because, collecting information is one thing, but turning it into real action, that's what really matters.
These sensors are amazingly sophisticated. They're measuring over 25 different environmental factors at the same time, and they're doing it in real time. And the most important part is that this is actual exposure data. Not an estimate, not some computer model, but what's really happening on the ground.
And just look at some of the key things they're measuring. You've got dangerous pollutants like particulate matter or PM 2.5. Those are the tiny particles that can get deep into your lungs. You've got nitrogen dioxide from traffic, volatile organic compounds. Those are basically harmful gases. But it goes way beyond that, even capturing data on stuff like noise levels and road quality to give a complete picture of that journey.
So here's how all that raw data actually becomes useful. It flows through this really clear process. First, schools get real-time dashboards to see what's happening live. That data then feeds into route intelligence, which helps spot pollution hotspots and maybe even optimize the trip. Over time, all this data reveals long-term trends for bigger policy decisions. And finally, it all gets bundled into actionable reports for city planners and the community.
So what's the end result of all this? Well, it's pretty simple. Healthier routes lead to healthier kids. But the value this data creates, it really goes out to everyone who's involved in a child's journey to school.
And this is how everybody wins. For schools, it means they can finally make health and safety decisions based on real evidence. For parents, it means peace of mind through transparent data and a real understanding of their child's exposure. And for the school bus fleets, well, there's zero operational burden, and they get to be seen as a positive force for public benefit. It really is a win-win-win.
When you kind of zoom out and look at the big picture, this idea becomes truly game-changing. We're not just talking about smarter bus routes anymore. We're talking about fundamentally repurposing our transportation infrastructure into a tool for public health.
I mean, just think about the sheer scale of the network that's already out there. There are 480,000 school buses operating just in the United States.
And every single school day, those buses are carrying 26 million children.
And every year, that fleet travels a jaw-dropping 5.7 billion miles. Can you just imagine the unbelievable amount of environmental data that mobile network could collect?
This quote from the company behind this whole thing just sums it up perfectly. It's not about building something brand new. It's about transforming the infrastructure we already have into this incredibly powerful, distributed environmental sensing network.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought. We started by asking what our kids are breathing on their way to school. But maybe the bigger, more inspiring question to ask is this: what if the journey to school could actually help heal an entire city?